So,
and another thing.
No, listen.
Take it easy.
Mind you, this is an NHL podcast, but like you guys aren't Miramichi anymore. I am, but we're all Miramichiers, right? The Miramichi Northmen are in Game 3 tonight. And one of our followers on the podcast, Tim there on TikTok and YouTube and stuff, he's always posting the hockey videos. He posted right off the face-off of Miramichi versus Rishabukdo that the best he can tell is that James Scott just got a 10-minute misconduct just for being out on the ice. Nothing had happened yet. When they opened the gate, you're gone. There's a video of it and everything, and his arms are in the air. So, go Northman. But am I drawing comparisons between James Scott and Connor McDavid?Maybe. Bedard. Sorry, Connor Bedard.
I was going to say Connor Bedard.
Connor Bedard. Oh,
'tis the season.
I guess, if you count Scott's 10-minute misconduct, is that like 3 misconducts in 48 hours?
Man, that's wild. Last podcast, Easton Cowan was Connor McDavid. Now James Scott's Connor McDavid.
That's not what I meant. Anyway. On either one of those, that's not what I meant.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell a whole bunch on this, but like I did see someone post. It was a tweet, but I'm not on Twitter anymore. Like someone had screen captured it, put it on Facebook, whatever. But it was like, said, I am not a Connor Bedard fan. I've always hated the Blackhawks, but the amount that this kid is picked on and scrutinized, including by the refs, should probably be studied. That was the guy's tweet.
So the Avs played Chicago not that long ago.
Yeah.
And someone asked MacKinnon about him. And McKinnon's response was, he's like, I would have killed to have his point production in my rookie season.
Yeah.
And he won the Calder.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of like, there's your perspective. Chill out.
Like what are you talking about?
Chill out. Okay.
To be fair to the referee, he was sitting on the bench right in front of him, sharpening the blade of his stick, saying, when I get back out on the ice, I am going to find you.
And cut your head completely off. That is what you could read between the lines.
So for those that don't know, and Jay, maybe you, I don't know. I saw this clip. Connor Bedard's on the bench. The ref comes over and says something to multiple people on the bench. Connor Bedard says something to the ref, and I'm not going to lie, while he's just a kid, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it didn't exactly look heated. Like he's not yelling, he's not red in the face, he doesn't look mad, but he says something. The ref skates away, the camera stays on Bedard. Bedard's fixing his stick, the trainer hands him another stick, someone hands him some tape. He says something to his trainer whispers something to him back. You could have counted to 20 seconds go by, and then he looks up and goes, what? He's been kicked out. He's gone.
Yeah.
10-minute game misconduct. And I've 3 different lip readers online have said 3 different things of what he said to the ref, but like he looked completely puzzled that he had been tossed. Like just a very weird interaction.
I guess it's so hard to judge these because we don't know what they're saying, but like to not so. Yeah, I get like Nathan MacKinnon gets a handful of 2-minute unsportsmanlikes every season because he can't stop chirping the refs.
No judgment from me.
Like he got one a couple games ago, and it was like it was way more. I don't know what he was saying. Again, what you're saying is kind of important, but like he was chirping this ref for like multiple minutes across a couple plays, and then he gets 2 minutes unsportsmanlike. So I don't know what was said. I always feel like with these clips, like you don't really know the context. I don't know what led up to it. Maybe there was other stuff going on in the game. Because I don't think that refs are that thin-skinned that they're just going to throw you out for like you're the first escalation, especially a guy like him. Like he's young, he doesn't have much of a history with these guys, so I just don't know how to comment it. I mean, you could make up lots of things that a person could say that would be terrible.
Well, and then I
You
wonder.
just say it looking perfectly calm and normal. And
Yeah,
you get
exactly.
away with
because he did
anything.
look perfectly calm and normal.
Yeah.
And then tell me
Yeah.
what you think of this, and then we'll move on to. But a couple of things came to light. So like at the same time, so as you say that about MacKinnon, Jay, and then he gets the odd 2-minute. How many times does he not get one? Right?
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
because he's MacKinnon. So Saturday night, Tavares lost his ever loving mind at the referee, and Gary's half laughing because Tavares doesn't lose his mind, and he got nothing. Nothing happened. He went to the bench, and is that one of those things like, how come he said that and he didn't get? That's Mr. Tavares. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that like after 18 years in the NHL, does the ref go like, okay, John, like I know I kind of blew that one. I'm sorry. You would be so mad
and I
if
know.
didn't. You kind of earned it. You earned one. Like, I don't know.
Well, plus, like, there's, 19. How many seasons you say? How long?
I think is it 18 seasons, Gary?
18?
Like he's 36 now.
Sounds about right.
He was in the league when he was 18. My guess is 18. But
so, I mean, you have 18 seasons to build a rapport and like build like, like they get to know you to say like, okay, like, yeah, okay, we know he's just heated, so we'll let him chill out because we know he's going to chill out. And my thought with Bedard is like, that could be the, where he's young and coming into the league. It could be this guy's way of saying, hey, dude, here's the line, just so you know. And you're going to remember this is where the line is.
And maybe we mentioned this before, but there was a Sean Avery interview. This involves Sakic, right?
I've heard this. I love this story.
And I love it so much. And I can't stand Sean Avery, but I love it so much. But I guess, so he's on the Red Wings bench. He is chirping everybody, as Sean Avery does. He did it at a young age. He was doing it then. He's chirping everybody. He's letting everybody have it. He's saying inappropriate stuff.
Waving a stick in front of a Brodeur.
Yeah. And he stands up on the bench and he's just giving it. And he said, I felt... there's Joe Sakic about to take the face off, and Sean Avery's like roaring his head off, saying whatever. And he felt like a big tug on his jersey and sat him down. And next to him was Brett Hall. And all he said to Sean Avery was, we don't talk to Mr. Sakic. That was the line.
Yeah, you don't get to talk to Mr. Sakic. I heard Shanahan. The first time I heard that was Brendan Shanahan telling that story.
Yeah,
because he
Sean
said
Avery
like
told it too, and he told it just like that. It's like there's Brett Hall. You don't get to talk to Mr.
You don't
Sakic.
get to talk to Mr. And then he kind of like looks at the other guys on the bench, and they all just kind of like nod.
And it's one of those even between each other, like he's earned it. You know what I mean? Like
which is wild because you think, and you think of the extreme hate that those teams had to still maintain that level.
Yeah,
But I mean, feels like a different time now.
Band as it ever, but yeah.
But it's just so hard to know. I mean, I just don't know what he said. I mean, I'm looking at since March 10th, which I guess is only just almost a week ago, he's had no points. 3 games, Colorado, San Jose, Vancouver, no points. He's a -5 in that time. And he has his 26 penalty minutes.
Two misconducts in 48 hours.
Yeah. So,
and the second one, I'm not sure what for.
The second one was just one of those get everybody off the ice to the locker rooms.
Less than 3 minutes left of the game.
Yeah, it's just get everybody out of there.
But in Bedard fashion, did you guys see? So he's heated. He can't believe he got tossed. He walks off, and I think it was just to get everybody out of there. But it's funny, he got 2 in 48 hours.
4 misconducts.
Yeah. So Jay, he throws his helmet up the hallway and almost hits somebody, and he's just fuming. And you could count to 10 seconds, Gary? And you see him come back out the tunnel, and he's like, sorry, man, sorry, almost hit you. I'm sorry about that. And then walks back to the... And it's like you still can't take the gentleman out of him. It's not you, it's me, yeah. But he comes back like he's so hot. He's oh man, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm still mad.
Yeah,
like it was.
I am not at all worried about Connor Bedard. I think he's going to be a stud. I mean,
he should probably stop quoting Slapshot to the referees, but
I don't even know which one I can say. So
My
yeah,
allergies to these fans, you know.
hey, Hanrahan.
I just picture the goalie in the hotel room on the phone. Everyone's talking, telling stories, watching TV, and he's like, "Trade me right now! You'll trade me right now!"
Such a good movie.
I have his autograph here on an 8x10. And he wrote out the entire quote of my allergies to these fans. You know, I get sick when I look at. He wrote out the whole thing on the picture. Oh, that movie. So inappropriate, but so
I don't
good.
know how they picked such great hockey names. Ogie Oglethorpe.
Because he was real.
Were all those players real?
Ogie
All the
Oglethorpe
names?
played in Bathurst.
Oh, is he the guy that played? Oh,
Yeah.
I get that.
But there's a
Okay.
bunch of them. Like there's
Anyways,
that
okay.
last game though, when they brought in all these guys. Do you know what I mean? Like all these different. Yeah, like not a hockey game anymore. But oh man.
Well, this escalated quickly.
McCracken. That was another one. Yeah, and he had the stick up like he was like,
Yeah. What's the show that he's on a show describing the penalties?
yeah, it's like the local TV show, and you know.
And he's just going like really overboard with how slashing is and
Yeah,
hooking
like
and
what's
all
a
that.
hook? And he hooks the TV host. Oh, yeah. All right. Well, can you explain to the audience at home what's a high stick? That's when some stupid Englishman there get his stick too high. Then what happens? You go into the box. You feel shame.
You feel shame.
Oh gosh.
Well, I highly doubt that Bedard was,
No.
talking about great lines from Slapshot, but yeah, he should maybe.
It's possible. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man. I didn't learn till this week, not to go off topic, but that wasn't supposed to be Paul Newman. That was supposed to be Al Pacino.
You must have been listening. Was it? It was. Where did I hear? I was listening to something. They were talking about this.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they were talking about the same thing. I heard that this week.
And Al Pacino really wanted it, like really wanted the part, but he couldn't skate. And then he was trying to talk to the director, and they're like, "Well, could you just like fake it?" Like anyway, I can't picture anybody but Paul Newman. You know what I mean? Like he's perfect. But, yeah.
Oh man.
Anyway, maybe as we're talking, Bedard got suspended again. I don't know. What the heck though? Like anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So for my final thought on him, I guess in general, I feel like for goal scorers or like, highly labeled as a goal scorer, their careers, I just feel like are a lot tougher. And you don't have to, not a lot tougher, but a lot tougher, like in terms of judgment, because like look no further than Austin Matthews, right? Like if he doesn't score 50 goals a year because he doesn't typically get the assists, and because of that, his points aren't as high. If he doesn't get those 50 goals, 60 goals, people are like, what is wrong with Matthews? You know what I mean? It's like, if you're not scoring, it's like your perceived value disappears. So like, and I feel like with Bedard trying to, he sort of has that same sort of thing where like, he's not going to be a 140 point player. And because of that, if he's not scoring at, 0.7 goals a game, he's going to be looked at like something's wrong. So I don't know. I think he's got to kind of get used to that. Like he's gone 4 games without a goal. So for a guy like that, it's like, what's wrong with Bedard? And then now he's he's getting upset and frustrated. So I feel like it's a harder learning curve for more of the goal scoring type guys.
He's also 19 years old.
And he's on the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
And he's on the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I'm not worried about him. I think
To compare 18, 19-year-olds, Kimi Antonelli went from 16th place to 4th. So, tell me when I'm telling lies, boys.
Man, how am I supposed to say nothing about that now?
He's 18 years old.
You're saying Connor Bedard's more of an Isaac Hayjack or
Hadjar. Yeah, Lewis's dad's consoling him after he storms off the ice.
More of a Jack Doohan, more of a Liam Lawson, more
We
of
won't
a
deep dive into that.
Ollie Behrman.
Well, there you go. Because Haas is more comparable to the Chicago Blackhawks than Mercedes by far. For those who don't know, we're talking F1, but Antonelli, being 18 years old, has the benefit of being in a Mercedes at least. Poor Bedard is not in a Mercedes right now. He's in a
for
Haas.
our 5 loyal listeners that we have left.
The Chicago Blackhawks are the Haas of the NHL.
There you go.
Just to forewarn you, next episode, we're going to spend the whole hour compare. Okay, which F1 team is which NHL team?
Oh man, the Leafs. Are you kidding? The Leafs are Ferrari. They're always up there, but they can't quite get it done. Tell me I'm wrong.
Historical.
The strategy.
The strategy always goes wrong.
They have great stats from a long time ago.
Yeah, arguably the most fans in the entire, but just can't quite get it done.
Start calling us the Tifosi.
Oh, we're off here.
Man. Oh, man, if you guys got Rantanen, that could have been Lewis Hamilton.
In his prime.
Yeah, well, a little different. Can't be all the same, eh?
Oh,
Anyway.
well.
That'll be for next season when we bring in Brad Marchand.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, baby.
Team Red Bull signs Brad Marchand as a UFA to replace Liam Lawson. Mark my words, July 1st. You'll see. He just runs around licking the other drivers' cars.
Man, put him on a team with Yuki Tsunoda. You wouldn't see either of them.
The Ratmobile.
Can't see over the
Ratmobile.
Ratmobile.
Racing rats.
Oh,
Instead
man.
of racing bulls.
Jeremy.
We should just delete this now.
I didn't
sorry,
realize
boys.
how much Phil keeps us in line.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah.
Phil takes one off, and we're here talking about F1 and Ogie Slap Shot, Paul Newman.
Oh, man. Where are
Jeremy.
you, Marv?
I hear somebody played the milestone game. Would
What?
you like to? I hear somebody played a milestone game.
What do you mean?
I saw a picture with a silver stick. Am I completely off?
You're talking about my boy?
I'm talking about your boy.
Yeah.
Would you like to spend the next 40 minutes reflecting on 1,000 games?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I tell you, if 1,000 games or points?
1,000 points.
Points.
Oh, they said games. Well, if I was to say one thing about that, I'd say Nathan MacKinnon is a lot like a Max Verstappen.
Oh, man.
I ruined it, Gary.
Summed it up beautifully.
1,000 points, eh? So nice he hit it twice. That was good.
Yeah. He's had himself quite a year. Four Nations MVP.
Yeah.
Hit his 1,000 points.
1,000 points twice. Yeah.
Yeah. So
people at home missed it. Am I not mistaken in that he got it?
You're not.
The whole team clears the bench to celebrate 1,000 points, and the refs call it back.
The funny part is the first time is Nate just puts it in. They go behind the net to celebrate. The bench clears, and the camera zoomed in on him, and you can see Nate just immediately starts saying something to me, like they're celebrating, but he's kind of like going like like this. And MacKinnon's like, oh yeah, of course. And so they're all coming over and they're like, yeah. And then like they're all like talking. They're like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we'll see. So
Classic
they go
NHL.
Oh yeah. And they go to the bench. And they sit there and they sit there and they sit there. And even the ref, I don't know which one it was, but even like he's like laughing and shaking his head as they go to review it. And then like he comes back and he's kind of like, after further review, it was determined that the play was offside prior to the goal.
And then he gave everybody that came onto the ice 10-minute misconducts.
Even gave Bedard one just for.
He's the new Kadri. As soon as anything happens,
he wasn't
Bedard
even playing that night, but
yeah, Bedard, yeah.
He got a text.
After further review, number 98 of the Chicago Blackhawks has received a 10-minute misconduct. Not even in the game.
Oh man.
Yeah. So yeah, he hits it, and then I was like, "Well, what are they going to do?" Because it was actually that. It was that game that they were playing. Actually, he was in the game. So, anyways, they clear the bench again, and it's just kind of like, well, we did it before, so I guess we have to do it for the real one now. So, anyways, classic NHL. Yeah,
too
classic.
funny.
So, yeah. So a couple things now that we're already 22 minutes in. We'll just get going here. Is there anything post-deadline moves that have stood out to you? A couple teams have kind of done the post-deadline bump, but some of them are kind of crashing to earth. Like it was Boston trades away everybody. Then they beat both Florida and Tampa. They beat Tampa 4-0. And you know what I mean? I think you always kind of get that from the rebuilding teams. Is the guys who are still there kind of like, well, we're not going to go down without a fight, and then they
and I don't blame them. Sometimes it's an attitude in the room, I think.
Right.
Like when you feel like you got nothing left to lose, and it's part of it's probably disheartening, and you want to show people up, like, oh yeah, no, I'm part of a rebuild, as in you're expecting me to tank,
especially management, right? Like, yeah. The interesting one to me is Carolina is now on a 7-game winning streak, and I almost think the whole Rantanen thing kind of galvanized them. I
think so.
Yeah, like they end up without Natchez. They had Rantanen, now they don't have him. It's not like he was doing anything while he was there anyway. And 7-game win streak. They're 4th in the league.
They love the stank,
and they love stanky ovens. I had a guy at work with the World Juniors that Logan Stankoven played in, and he comes in. He's like, "Who is like Stank Oven?" It's like, wow, how did I not read it like that? I'm such a like hockey name guy that it didn't occur to me that it just says Stank Oven.
So you're not French enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Take that H out.
How do you have 2 U's and a Q in your name and you didn't see?
I know, right? I say that. That's my line all the time. I was like, I have 2 U's and a Q, and I don't know any French. Yeah, so that stood out to me. The Avs and the Stars just played this afternoon. Avs pretty thoroughly outplayed Dallas. Had a 3-1 lead with it was like 7 or 8 minutes left. Dallas comes back, Scores 2, really opportunistic, 20 seconds apart. Absolute dagger. But the Avs look pretty different after the deadline. All season long, if that had happened, I think they would have kind of phoned it in. But they didn't quit. Ended it pretty quick in overtime. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with them. I like Charlie Coyle. Brock Nelson still looks pretty out of place, but he's kind of struggling. But overall, it's feeling pretty good. So, what about the Leafs? How have you guys felt?
Ottawa's looking good.
I was scared you were going to ask about the Leafs.
So Ottawa now is on a 6-game win streak going into that.
So not only were they on a hot streak anyway, and for whatever reason, the last 2 years, it didn't matter how Ottawa was doing. They just seemed to have Toronto's number. It's funny how that happens. And like you even said, so like Tampa and Boston this year, I find it a very similar situation. Doesn't matter how bad Boston's doing. When they get Tampa, they seem to. I don't understand. I find myself rooting for other teams right now. Toronto did themselves no favors losing to Florida. Then they lost to Ottawa, and mind you, they haven't been home. So it was like weird. So like when the announcer said, so like in the last 13 games, they've only been home for 2. And while they were on the road, even though it felt like a lackluster road trip with all the overtimes, they actually went 8-3, which you'd take that anytime. Do you know what I mean? But we know, as having watched them all, that 8-3, and 5 of the 8 were squeakers. Like it's a miracle. Do you know what I mean? Like giving up leads, but still winning it in OT anyway, and being up 3-0, and now you're in overtime, but you got lucky and won it anyway, and those are all wins, and they all count as 2 points, but it hasn't been pretty. And now, so Florida goes into Toronto and beats Toronto, and Toronto, that was like a 4-point game. Toronto needed to beat Florida. And then Florida goes into Montreal, but Montreal beats Florida, which does the Toronto the favor, and Montreal's chasing a wild card spot. I can't believe we're saying that after the beginning of the year they had. And then Toronto still doesn't do themselves any favors. They lose to Ottawa while Montreal beats Florida for them. Like the top of that division's just getting insane. It's like between the top 4 teams, it's a 6-point spread. Like it's really tight.
That's what I'm looking at here now. The only one who's clearly run away is Washington to play the last wild card team, which actually the 2 extremes are what look. Well, sorry, not most decided. Ottawa looks like, to me, they could interchange depending on how this streak goes, because you guys, Tampa and Ottawa all have the same amount of games played.
Yes.
They have 77 points. You guys got 81. But then like the second wild card spot right now is the Rangers with 72. And then there's like a whole bunch of teams. There's at least, there's a lot. But that's the chase for the second wild card. So like to me, the first round matchup, it really could be any combo of Lightning, Leafs, Senators, the way it looks today. Now, unless the Panthers, who are 7-3-0 in their last 10, they're at 85 points. I mean, they have a game in hand, but I don't know. I'm just trying to sort out the playoff races, and it could be pretty wide open. I would love a classic Leaf Senators. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Me too. I haven't seen it in a long time, but it makes me nervous. We're probably going to get Leafs
playoffs
Tampa.
make me nervous.
Yes. As a Leafs fan, we get nervous around playoffs.
Well, especially like if you get Team USA, Brady Tkachuk. Oh boy,
I know
he's a monster.
And with 16 games left, 15 for Florida, there is a universe here where Ottawa plays Florida. It is not impossible right now, depending on how these 4 teams play. Because like you said, these 4 teams in the division, they haven't run away with it like Washington has, but they've created distance between themselves and then the next 3 and 4 teams trying to get the last wild card spot. Like, like if
Yep.
Toronto loses and loses and loses, they slip to the first wild card spot, but they're still in because there's such a gap between the first and second wild card spot in points
Right.
that I just can't see a world where one of those 4 teams aren't in already. But
Don't be so confident.
I don't. I just can't see them magically going like 2-14. You know what I mean? Like
I've seen it before.
touche. Now, some takeaways from the Toronto-Ottawa game. It was and Florida, if you don't mind me saying. While Toronto didn't look like, I was kind of disappointed. Like they looked like Gary, you watched them probably, but it looked like they were lacking heart. There was just something not.
They were trying hard.
But it wasn't, you know what I mean? But Jay, if you looked at like the shots in the slot chances and the cycle chances and the ozone time and against Florida and against Ottawa, pretty stinking even. Like it was very even. Like I think the Toronto-Ottawa game, the shots were the exact same. The ozone time was within 20 seconds of each other.
Mm.
Like there was just one penalty each. Like there was just nothing. It just was what it was. 3-2 game. You know what I mean? Well, 4-2 after an empty netter. But you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and it's hard too because like if I think of like recent in recent years, I guess like the Leafs run through the playoffs. In terms of the analytics, they've always looked good. It's like they statistically they should be winning more than they are. And that's what I find interesting, this whole debate of like, but they're...
Although a lot of the times in the playoffs, they get stuck on the perimeter on the outside. That was their big playoff issue. The last year or two has been better. But yeah, historically, it's lots of shots from the outside.
Well, and you look at the way
lots
Rod
of ozone
Brind'Amour,
time, possession.
You're also talking about the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, they're the most extreme version of that. But like... And they have managed to play that so smotheringly and so like committed to that they get through the round one fairly easily. But then when they get to the later rounds, that style of hockey, when you're dealing with everyone in the conference finals turns into Chris Tanev, right? And they all block shots and everyone block, and all of a sudden now your shot attempts. Like their shot attempts, yes, they don't change, but like they're not it doesn't translate to high expected goals.
Yeah,
So I feel like it's kind of that same thing. But but to me that was I think Boston has had more of a say in that than like just the Leafs playing that way. Like Boston has played to me anyway, from what I've seen. They play the tight box in front of the net. They protect the net. They push everything to the outside. Every Boston game I've seen, like, well, maybe now they're going to be different. I don't know. But like, and to me, Carlo kind of embodies that whole style, So like, finding ways around that, right?
I was going to bring up Carlo only because even though they lost last night, my goodness, he looked like 2 or 3 times more comfortable last night than he did the other night, even though they lost. Like he pinched up the boards a couple times. He got in on a play. Like he just starting to. That takes time too, right? Like you added 2 players to your starting lineup, and it's been 4 games, 3 games. Like it's really not.
Yeah. I do think it's harder for defensemen to fit in.
I think so too.
And it's not even on the offense. I feel like, offensively that stuff can be kind of created. But just it's when you're defending, it's like you need to have the understanding of you can't see that guy, but that part of the ice is covered, or like if you go here, that guy knows you've gone there and he's going to react in this certain way. It's so much of that goes on in the defensive zone. And like to me, and those reads, those mistakes, like, I mean, look at McDavid's overtime winner for Team Canada. It was a small little read like that, right? And that was the difference in the game. And I feel like for defensemen, it's really hard to kind of fit into that. But
Speaking of trying to fit in, the Leafs Sens game last night, Scott Laughton tries to fire everything up, getting into a fight, and then he finishes the fight. He's like, yeah, and it's just silence.
Well, welcome to Toronto, where everyone in the lower bowl is wearing a suit, and they're there with other businessmen showing them a good time who aren't even hockey fans, sitting in the front 5 rows. Jumpins.
It was awkward.
So a few weeks ago, say what you want about Matthews having a weird year, but he kind of called the crowd out on that, eh?
Yeah,
About
I heard
how
that.
quiet it is. And
Would have
how,
been nice to...
Because in
Yeah.
any other, you go into any other rink and it's loud and, you know what I mean? Like it I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, playoff games will be are always a little bit different. It's not the same. Playoff games magically get louder, but it'd be something nice because players do feed off that stuff to feel like you've got,
Oh, yeah.
like
You
Dear
would think
Scott in Philly that would
Saturday
rile
night.
up the. Yeah, you'd think, but man, I'm telling you, as someone who sat last year when we surprised the boys, we're sitting in row 10, and while we're not way down
Bougie.
there, we're down there. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like we're 10 rows behind the Leafs bench. You know what I mean? Like the look on Maddox's face when he heard Nylander drop a massive F-bomb, because that's how close we were sitting.
You can
Was worth
smell
the
the
whole
stink
trip.
from the gloves.
Yeah.
Smell
But,
the
like,
glove.
Sitting in our row, Gary, and behind me, and like there's fans mixed all amongst you. Sitting next to me and Amanda was this older couple with no gear on whatsoever. Like if you had met them on the sidewalk going into the game, you wouldn't look at them and go, "Oh, going to the game?" Like, you know what I mean? It's like, is this like, did you decide just a half an hour ago to come sit in row 10 of the Leafs game? Like what? Like what's, you know what I mean? Like, and that's some of your season ticket holders, and they give tickets away. And anyway, it's a very different crowd. But like Scott Laughton, if he does that in Philly, the crowd's amped. He does that in Toronto, and the guys in the nosebleeds are like, "Yeah." And that's all you're getting. Like it's really, it's kind of a shame, but I
Man,
don't
you
know.
sat in row 10 as a Bush League podcast, have corporate tickets?
a very generous season ticket holder messaged
Flew
me
up
online.
in his private
Jokes aside.
jet.
Yeah, I drove up in my private RAV4.
My private car.
Oh man.
Oh, yeah, Taylor Swift over here. He's got his own private car. He drives everywhere.
So snooty, he even drove it himself. He even pumped his own gas because he wouldn't let anyone touch it.
Good news, full serve. Oh, man.
What's your level of confidence on Leafs goaltending right now? The bar was so high because they were like second in the league in goaltending for quite a while.
Yeah, and at one, they were the second best tandem, and then Stoller spent all of 3 weeks tied with Hellebuck, even though he had played less games. So there's an asterisk on that, to be fair.
Yeah.
But that has fallen off a little bit too,
Well,
mostly thanks to Colorado. But
but Wall, he hasn't quite been found his game since injury, right?
Well, he would
So-
need to play to find his game.
yeah, he hasn't been playing much.
Isn't he back, though, or no?
Yeah,
He's-
yeah.
He's
Oh,
just
yeah.
not getting the games.
And when Stollers was out hurt, the very first game, Stollers was hurt, and it would have been Wall's turn anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like they were going back and forth, back and forth. He didn't look good. And then they had to play him back to back. And all of a sudden, that game, he stood on his head. I was like, oh, well, maybe we'll be fine. And then it just slowly petered off. And then it was like, oh, good, Stollers is back. Right? And then they've switched again. And the other night, Wall just didn't look very good. And Stollers, while I think he has to be the one if you're picking one of the two, like he's edging out Wall, but it's nothing. Looking a little ordinary, Jay. I don't want to say that, but he's not
It's
looking horrible.
Not horrible. It's not the cause of any issues. He's just average.
Average or slightly above average, just not.
Which might not be good enough on this team.
Yes.
I just find I hate talking about goaltending
I know.
because like it's this magical art that doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. I don't know. Like, how do you know?
When you have an issue, you just trade both of your goalies out, bring new ones in.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, maybe you could still trade them. Maybe it's not too late.
You also have to make sure they have names that rhyme or are close to the same name.
Yeah, they're both same element.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see.
So last night, I will say he did look relaxed. There was a moment there where Stützle was in front of him, trying to read where Tanev was going to go, and it was very, I don't know. He held his trapper up, Jay, put it in Stützle's face, and he kind of danced back and forth and wouldn't let him see. And on the close-up, you could see Stollers is laughing his head off, like he's not mad at all. He thinks this is so funny, and he's not letting him, but he's relaxed. And while he let in 3, the team let in 4, but 3 of them were on him. All 3 of them they're not on him. Like there's one that's questionable, but like he was reading a pass, kind of a shot pass, and he was already down. And that was just put in the perfect spot, like right above his right shoulder. Like he couldn't get any higher from his knees, you know what I mean? Like any higher, it hits the crossbar. Any lower, it hits the shoulder. Like none of them were on him, but you know how it's just, but it's not a Hellebuck or an Ottinger or a Shesterkin or a,
I mean, I'm looking at like Wall is a 905 save percentage. Stoller's is 918. Like
he was higher, but yeah,
that's pretty good.
Good. Like that's great.
Now the only asterisk I'll put on this before and I'm trying to watch the clock here a little bit too, but Gary, you'll know where I'm coming from as a diehard Leafs fan when I'm thinking playoffs. Last year we had a little bit more. The year before we had none of what I'm about to say. The back 6 this year, if you had told me 2 years ago that your defenseman would go from Morgan Rielly and who to Morgan Rielly, Brandon Carlo, Simone Benoit, Chris Tanev, OEL, Jake McCabe. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
Well then we don't need a goalie. Like what's, and no, apparently you still do.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the thing. You're right, Gary. Who am I to comment? We had a Stanley Cup winning goalie in Darcy Kemper.
Yep.
Let him walk in free agency. And I was actually just looking of goalies who've played a lot of games. It's Hellebuck, Vasilevsky, and Kemper with a 919. And he wanted, I think, $5 million a season. They just gave Blackwood $5 million a season now. That contract for Kemper would have been, it would be into its 3rd year now, but they probably should have just paid him. That would have been a deal looking back on it now. But yeah, they let him walk. And then this season in the fall, they trade both goalies for new ones. So yeah, I have no comment. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. All I'm saying is I don't know. I've seen some games and like goalies don't need to be like the Brodeur, the Patrick Waugh, the Hasek. They just, I don't think they need to be like that anymore. Where like a sub 2 point whatever goals against average. For one, that's expensive. I mean, look at Shesterkin's contract and that kind of thing. Like, yeah, I mean, I say you look at your defense and you get them all kind of pulling the rope the same way, and it's like, you just you limit your chances, and especially for like where you have 4 7-figure or no 8-figure 8-figure contracts. Like it has to be trimmed somewhere, right? So
and we always talk about, so like when we talked about Gretzky versus Ovi, 8 away now, by the way, by the time this airs, or Crosby versus Ovi, and that it's a different time now than it was then, and blah, 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 blah. Do you remember when we were kids where if you had a 90-mile-an-hour slap shot, that was a very big deal? And now every team has 2 defensemen that can do that. Do you know what I mean? It is a different world for goalies too, and I just feel like we forget that a lot. I know I do.
It's funny, like, the synergy sticks or whatever they're called now. I think they brought like the lower percentile. They brought those ones up, but even with those, we don't like. With the wood sticks, like it used to be the Chara Weber show, and before him, it was like Al McInnes.
Yes, I was thinking of Weber when I said that. No joke.
And and those guys would do like 108, 109 mile an hours with like, when they had the new sticks. But I mean, they used to be wood sticks. Shoot them like that with 2. But
like last night, Simone Benoit, who Gary will tell you is not known for this, shoots one from the point that didn't have a prayer going in. There was too much traffic. And up in the top of the screen came up 89.8. And I was like, what? You've been holding out, Benoit. What the heck? You know what I mean? And just kind of like no time to set it up. Just kind of like, oh, well, let's shoot it back in. Right? It might as well be on net type deal. And it was almost 90. And it's just when we were kids, I don't remember. Like the players that had those shots were notable to the point of I can name them. Al Iafrate. Al McGinnis, a lot of Al's.
The Skullet.
Right? Yeah, the Skullet. And you said, Shea Weber and Zdeno Chara, and you know what I mean? Some of these guys, like we can name them, and now it's like, and you're right, I wonder how much of it is, the further the sport progresses, the more expertise you have in stuff like shots and shot blocking and shot, like we talked about Jacob Slavin, almost like face down 2-pad stack when he slides to try to block a pass in case the guy saucers it. He wants the other leg up too and all this stuff. Well, they're taught that. They practice it. And when we were kids, that wasn't even something that would have registered with me to like, you know what I mean? No one's thinking that fast. But now that on top of the sticks have changed and stuff too. And like it's changed.
It's a different game.
Different game.
It's a bit different. It's funny. I went and watched. I was watching on YouTube. You can watch the 2002 Salt Lake City, Canada, US. I've watched it a few times over the years, just because that was such a fun game. But like, I think they still had. No, did they still have 2-line pass? I don't remember.
I think they did, man, back then.
It was right around then that they get rid of it. It was sometime.
It's after the lockout, wasn't it?
It was after the lockout, yeah. So just like seeing like even just how they do breakouts, no defenseman, even like Scott Niedermayer, Rob Blake, these like more offensive defensemen. It's glassing out or like a pass to a forward at the blue line. And we regard these guys as like really good. Phil is asking if it's too late to jump in.
Yes. Like,
tell him he can come in and say goodbye.
I wouldn't even know how to edit that.
Tell him we decided to do an F1 show instead.
That's funny.
Oh man. Yeah. So yeah. I don't.
If you put a wooden stick in players' hands today, I'm not sure how many of them hit 90 miles an hour.
I'd be so curious to see that. You know what? If you're gonna do the stupid All-Star game again next year, make the play with wood sticks.
Yeah.
Just see what they can do. Let's see how good you are. Here's a Sherwood.
With how Did you notice how often the sticks break now?
Oh, it's all the time.
Except like I have 2 game used NHL sticks here, and while I don't want to put all my weight on it, I will tell you, there's some flex on those sticks. So I'm only telling you, if someone slashed you so hard that the stick broke, or a puck broke that stick, it broke that stick. Like, they are not, but it's funny because it looks like, oh, there's 2 sticks broken every game I watch. And like, yeah. So imagine blocking one of those with your foot, or taking one of those, you know what I mean? Because it broke that stick. That, like, I'm a pretty big
like
lad.
they always,
I leaned on Riley's pretty good, and you could have shot an arrow off it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to lean on it any further.
They show the replays in slow motion, and it doesn't even make sense when you look at the stick. Yeah. You're like, I don't even know how.
The physics behind that.
It's a C. It's the letter C. So I don't know. Yeah. But anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. The playoff race is still too close to call.
Yes, very.
You know, I'm still feeling good about my guys. The fans, the Denver fans, some boos for him when he touches, which is really wild because Matt Duchene plays in Dallas too. So now there's 2 players there that when they get the puck, the fans boo. I don't know about the Rantanen one. I mean, you know,
he didn't leave.
He did not ask to leave.
He was kicked out.
He was quite, you know. Now,
have we talked anything about the Brindamore stuff? Did that come out before or after the last
I just
one?
didn't know. I've seen it. I just don't know how much more you want to keep talking about. I mean, it is a big deal. But like, his exact quote was, he told me as soon as he got here, I'm not going to sign with Carolina. Did you see that, Tyson?
Yeah. And he listed like, 4 teams that he would.
4 teams I will. Yeah. This isn't one of them.
Yeah. Here's 4 teams. You're not on it.
And when he said 4 teams, one of the 4 teams was Colorado. So, like, where you just came from. Dallas was one.
Yeah.
And Toronto was one. Which I couldn't believe. Which maybe I threw up in my mouth a little bit. Right? I was like, oh, man. So, like, you would have stayed, too. You know what I mean? What are we doing?
I wish that
who was the 4th? Do we know?
I'm not sure.
I had read it at one point. I just don't remember.
I could take a wild guess and say Florida.
I think you might be right.
Seems like a popular destination.
I think you might be right.
Yeah, it turns out if you like money and you like nice weather, and you know.
So I wonder where
they're booing them because the team didn't want him.
It's not, and it's weird. It's a conflicted boo. It's like a boo, but I don't know if we should, but boo.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I feel bad about that because, like, I mean, like, I love him. He was big part of that core's history and story.
Yeah.
So I hope the boos don't. I mean, Matt Duchene, you can boo him all you want. He came out right out and said he didn't want to be there. He wanted to be traded. I mean, so, you know, you make your bed, you lie in it.
Wonder if Leaf fans will boo Marner when he comes back to Toronto.
Oh dear. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at how much you guys. I don't know how there's not more people wanting him. Just something different. Want to change. You know.
So Kipper, Elliott, Bieksa, Bissonnette's the only one that said the opposite, and then Merrick said this week that they all just suspect they're like everyone stop Marner staying. They're all of them were like separately in different interviews. Are like let's be real, Marner's re-signing this summer for 13.5 to 14, and he's going to lock it in. The cap's going up, and he's staying.
I fully expect him to re-sign, but I think if we have a very bad first round, that might change everything.
I do too. Like if we get
you
Ottawa,
just don't sign him. You go out
Tampa,
and sign 3 or 4 other players in his place. Start
and go
over.
deeper.
Well, like,
go
okay,
deeper.
so since Tree Living has come in, he came in and had to sign Matthews right away, right?
He came in and he had 1 month before Mariners no trade clause kicked in. So
right.
1 month to decide what to do with Mitch.
Yeah. So, like, to me, I don't know what, like, I don't think you know how Tree Living's gonna react. Like, I mean, usually a new GM comes in and he doesn't have the same vision. So, I mean, statistically, if it doesn't happen again, especially in round 1, I mean, I gotta think he tries to blow it up, you know?
And then there's other things like Stollers, Tanev, OEL, Carlo. Those are all Tree Living acquisitions and signings, and extending McCabe, because that one's really worked out. He's been great. And underrated, if you don't mind me saying, as a shutdown guy. Like, it's impressive to watch. But you're not wrong. Like, it's and then there's a world where, Gary, you lose the first round. But it's like last year but let's say Mitch does have a decent first round, but it's game 7 overtime, not Mitch's fault. Maybe he had 3 or 4 goals in the series and 4 or 5 assists, not his fault. It doesn't matter whether you made it or lost or not and didn't get it done. It's like, well, I did what you asked me to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's those worlds too, right? There's a lot of like, losing the first round doesn't mean you blow it up. Last year, we lost in the first round in overtime of game 7 and we had hit the post. Do you know what I mean? 2 inches to the right and we're not having this conversation. They went on to the second round. Like,
well, there is conversations of, like, how long it took Colorado's core to put it together, how long it took, like, who's the other one? Well, the Lightning. The Lightning went through a whole lot of disappointing seasons before they put it together with that core. But now the Leafs are kind of like, they've rolled past those statistics of, it took them 7 years with those guys to, like, get there. It's like,
but it's funny because they played all these kids, and I'm trying to watch the time here because I don't want to get. But, like, Jay, when they signed, let's go with Matthews and Marner right away, and then following it up with Nylander, right? They were playing Matthews full time. He was 18. So when they say they've had like 7 years to get this done, if you go by NHL standards, whether it's even Crosby or Ovi or MacKinnon, or what age were they when they were like, no, consistent 40, 50 goal scorer? Yeah, they were 25, 26, 27 years old, which is the age they're just getting to now. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, this core has had their time. Yeah, they've also been 18, 19, 20 years old for 3 and 4 of those years. Like,
and that's why I ask about Tree Living, because that is the difference.
Yes.
Like in Colorado, they had the same management that whole time. In Tampa Bay, they've had the same management the whole time. But, like, now there's been a management change in Toronto. So it's like, is Tree Living going to, like, go, all right, well, I've got 5 tries before I'm really going to pull and then it turns into like 12 years or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the difference. What's his thought on all that? You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not Tree Living, but if you have a first round this year, not necessarily a loss, but if you have a first round where you lost in 5 games or something or less, you got to blow something up. It doesn't matter about your regular season anymore. That's not, we want to. Toronto needs a cup. You know, Toronto's 2 years away from not even being on the cup anymore. Because they add the rings on the cup, right? It's not that funny, Jay.
Sorry.
We're at the bottom of the bowl.
You're at the bottom of the bowl. It's an original 6 team.
Circle in the drain.
What a problem to have.
The Hall of Fame is in Toronto. They're an original 6 team. And if they don't win this year, then next year they're not even on the cup. Next year's winner bumps them right off the cup.
Wow. I did not know that.
But like it's enough.
I'm glad Boston's rebuilding because that seems like a very Boston thing to do.
Yeah. But like
Man,
it's I don't know.
Original six is tough. It's a different.
Well,
it's
an
a
original
different
six,
beast.
there's 32 teams now.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm
give
saying.
it 6 years, there'll be 34.
Yeah,
I think. But like it's getting.
yeah.
I think it's the hardest one to win in pro sports now.
I mean, now here comes Mr. Expert Armchair GM here. After the deadline and a couple of games where we just now Rantanen was a $9 million player. You know, he was about to get 12 or, you know, whatever. But seeing the amount of depth that they now have room on the roster for, it's like, now I'm looking at it like, well, maybe they should have did it 2 years ago. You know, like the difference in the third and fourth lines, like who you can have on your center and fourth line. And I'm looking at like the way they roll four. It's unbelievable the difference. Like they can roll four lines. They can get momentum. Each line comes out. They put their shift in. They keep the puck in, the momentum, and it goes and goes.
So,
and I'm starting to see that into the DNA. And it's like, oh, this is what deep teams do. Yeah, right.
And I know what you mean. So Gary will maybe back me up on this, but Toronto has glimpses of that, but it's only because you end up with a fourth line who's gritty and fights above their weight class. They just somehow get in there and they forecheck better than the first line did all that work, and then Marner comes out after the shift change, coughs it up, and here we go again, back to the defensive. You know what I mean? Like, it's actually frustrating, but you are right, Jay. Like, so do you sign Mitch Marner this summer? So you got a bunch of players making under $2 million that are,
yeah.
There's a reason why they're making under $2 million. If they could make $5 million somewhere else, they wouldn't be there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you sign Marner for $14 million, or do you let him go and you sign 3 $5 million players?
That's what I'm saying.
And go middle of the road and have multiple lines that can go.
That's what I'm saying.
You sound like somebody who trusts your leadership, Jeremy. My fear would be that they let Marner go and they just turn around and sign Sam Bennett for $13 million.
There's a rumor, you know.
Yeah. They trade a first round in Easton Cowan for Tom Wilson.
Oh, gosh.
But I think they've heard enough of this, you know, for people making too much money thing that if they do let him go, I think they'll fill it in with depth.
Oh man,
I think
and
so
like
too.
It's just and it's just one. Like they traded now it's not the same. Like the Leaf situation is different, you know, because we had technically, well, actually, MacKinnon was the only one making 8 figures, but like Makar's deal's coming up. Rantanen's deal obviously was there. So like it's a little different. They traded a $9 million player, and were able to add all those pieces. Like imagine, like you said, like a 10 million, an 11 million, you know, so 12 million.
Can we ignore the Marner contract for a minute?
Gladly.
Pretend this doesn't, but it's, and we're talking a lot about the Leafs and Avs here tonight, but pretend like the Marner contract's not an issue. The rumor is, so the cap is going up next year with or without the Marner contract.
Oh,
right.
I'd like to dig in that too.
Well, but you are living in a world, Gary, where, so Tavares right now makes 11. And the rumor everywhere seems to be that he's going to sign for somewhere around 6.5 to stay. That's quite the discount. You just freed up $5 million of your cap, and the cap going up. You know what I mean? So let's say Marner walks. It's not only that you didn't take up 14 with Marner, you freed up another 5 on top of that you were paying before on Tavares. That's a whole nother player. By itself, never mind the Marner contract. For him settling from 11 to 6.5, that's a whole nother... That's a second line winger all day. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So like it could be a very interesting summer. Like I know I'm looking forward to the playoffs here, but like there's a lot of UFAs floating out there too. Like it's going to be a weird July.
Yep.
If Phil listens to this, he's going to be so angry we had this conversation when he was away.
I know. And on that note,
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
thanks for listening, folks. A lot of specific Avs Leaf stuff.
Yeah.
Some F1, some slap shot.
Tune in next week for our economic update.
All right, folks. Thanks for listening. If you actually listened this far,
Yeah.
yada, yada, yada. Cancel the consumer carbon tax and keep your stick on the ice.